I'm Dan Rodriguez, and welcome to the DTFC's YouTube channel, where we dive into anything and everything to help you jumpstart your career. In today's video, we speak to Calvin Chu, the CEO and founder of Monogram. If you like our content, please like and subscribe. Hope you enjoy the video.
Okay, welcome everyone. So today we have special guest, Calvin Chu, joining us. He's going to give you some background on himself. Josh is joining us again as my co-host. I won't take any more time. I'll hand it over to Calvin and he can introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll kind of get into the whole chat today.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Calvin Chu. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Monogram. We're based in Kitchener, Ontario in Canada. We make customizable computer interfaces. So we've got this really cool modular product. I actually have some on my desk. So it's basically imagine like a DJ console that you can control Photoshop with. Makes it a lot faster and more productive with your creative work. So yeah, we've been around for about 7 years now. Just launched our latest product, the Monogram Creative Console, a few months ago, and yeah, we're really excited. Customer reception's been great, and we're kind of ramping up sales this year. I guess a bit of my background. I'm originally from Toronto and went to the University of Waterloo for mechatronics engineering. There they have a co-op program where I've had a number of internships ranging from the automotive industry, software testing, wireless technologies, and ranging from large companies like Toyota and Apple to smaller ones, biotech companies, and a startup as well. So yeah, I think I guess that's a big part of my story. I kind of tried to take a pretty broad and diverse approach to gaining experience early on, and yeah, when I was finishing up my undergrad, I was really interested in entrepreneurship because I thought it was a great way to learn a lot really quickly, and also just meet a great network of different people. And I'm personally something I'm really passionate about, which is human-computer interaction. It was kind of a way to explore that and build some really cool technologies that could help a lot of people. So yeah, that's kind of a quick synopsis of kind of my story over the last few years.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but I always find it super interesting how many different places and countries you're even able to go to on co-op, which is, I mean, just the beauty of the program itself, that it allows us, or allowed us to be able to take those kinds of chances, right?
Yeah, I think I was fairly fortunate, and I guess I also tried to, like, I guess, hustle as much as I could during those those internships, and I guess for me, I've always been really like a hands-on kind of person, and really like the practical and the application side of things. So yeah, it's always been something that I've been just genuinely excited about, and I guess I put a lot of time towards setting up some of those opportunities for myself. And yeah, a lot of things went the way I wanted to, and a lot of things didn't. But yeah, I guess something that I didn't really plan for, but I ended up getting a few internships. I guess kind of throughout through the different companies that I worked at. I also kind of used that as a way to broaden my horizons and travel a bit and see the world. So I was pretty lucky. I got an internship in New Zealand, in California, in Stockholm, and in Colorado. So yeah, it was a really great experience, just learning not only the technical side, but I feel like I gained a lot more from, I guess, the non-technical aspects of those internships.
That transitions really well into the kind of first question I had for you. And I think we want to save more time today for audience questions, but I've spent a little bit of time with Calvin, but not enough. So I actually have a pretty long list of questions myself. But just to throw one out there early, Calvin, a couple of times I've heard you mention this kind of broadening horizons philosophy. And I was wondering if you could maybe go into detail, like looking back on the technical skills that you were starting with kind of in university, and then how you brought in that skill set as you moved through your career early on.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think from the start of it, I just felt like early in my career, I mean, even just still being in school, like it's a good opportunity to really, like, I guess, explore and see what was out there. And I think my philosophy was, even if it was something that I didn't necessarily enjoy, at least, I would know, hey, that's kind of not for me, or there are other aspects or other fields or industries that I enjoyed more. And I'm glad I did that, because I think initially I was really interested in the automotive industry. And I think it was great, but I'm glad I kind of branched out into other fields. And I think also that broader exposure, in the end, as I, kind of got after school and kind of working more full time, I think that exposure also just gave me like a broader perspective on different different problems out in the world, both from technical and non-technical. I guess to answer your question in terms of the technical background, I mean, I studied engineering, and mechatronics, I guess, is by nature a little bit more broad than others, combining kind of mechanical, electrical, and software systems. So I guess that's always been something just like a personal interest for me too. I've just been interested in a pretty wide variety of things. And yeah, I guess engineering is great because I look at it as a design profession, and design is problem solving. So I think it was a good like technical kind of foundation to I guess figure out where I wanted to apply that. And I guess coming out of school, that led me to applying engineering and problem solving to human-computer interaction. And that led me to start working on Monogram. And at the time, it was initially called Palette. Yeah, that's kind of where I think that, the education piece plays in.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe you can get into a little bit about some of the lessons that you have learned, taking that transition from an education or like working at other companies into starting your own and being, I guess, the leader, and having done that for, I guess, more than 8 years now, right?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to summarize. I feel like there's a lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes I made along the way. Yeah, I mean, I think there's there's a lot. I think in undergrad, and especially with some of these internships, I think the internship I had in New Zealand with a company called Trimble Navigation. They did GPS technologies and navigation systems. For that role, I applied kind of on a whim. I saw the posting, but I didn't find it through the normal engineering like categories. It was actually listed under targeted for geography students. And but it was, when I read the job description, it really read like kind of like a software QA type of role. So even though I didn't necessarily have the domain expertise in GIS and in that specific geographical systems, I thought it would be something that I'd be really interested in, and I could apply a lot of the skills that I had learned through quality control at Toyota and software background to it. And I applied. I kind of made the pitch in my cover letter, and yeah, the person decided to give me an interview, and I guess kind of I sold them on the pitch to hire an engineering student, and I got the job there. And I guess the lesson there for me was, I think there's fewer rules than you think. I guess I learned that just because it's not specifically said like, hey, this is for intermediate geography students, I still applied being technically a junior engineering student. Yeah, and I think that really that was a good lesson, because I ended up applying that to a lot of other I guess career decisions, and felt that I wasn't really limited anymore to kind of what the systems were filtering by, and yeah, just like I learned that you could kind of go out of your way to make some things happen.
Right, which I'm sure you also experience on a day-to-day basis now, because you're probably not doing as much engineering as you were back in those days, and wearing all the different hats that you have to do on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, that's true. I guess taking that one step further, I think kind of what Josh was asking, that engineering is or whatever program you're in, I think it's just a foundation. It's kind of up to you where you want to build on top of it. And for me, I mean, honestly, my day-to-day work is fortunately, I don't do any more calculus, which I was terrible at, and I do very little, programming and linear algebra now. But yeah, I think most of my job right now is very much on the business side of things, and I guess I didn't go to business school, but found a lot of topics very interesting, and taught myself a lot of things on my own. And yeah, I think just because you don't have an engineering degree doesn't mean you can't do engineering work, and vice versa. So yeah, I think that applies more broadly as well.
Let's see, maybe if we can tie that into specific advice for students, because I mean, I think like all the lessons that you've already explained or shared with everybody are definitely relevant to them. But were there certain things, like if you were to go back now and take your education again, were there certain decisions that you think you would have changed, or would you have followed the same path and just tried to learn different things, or do you think you happened to take the right steps and nothing should change?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of a tricky one. I mean, I think I'm very grateful for kind of the luck that and whatever definition of success you want to call it, but I'm very grateful for where I am today, and I think still there's lots of room for me to grow. But yeah, I think it's really hard to say what I would do differently. I think taking I guess like exploratory approach in the beginning, I think was the right way. I think if I didn't do that, I probably would have done that eventually, just because I feel like that curiosity would have been there. And I guess I'm glad I did it a little bit earlier, where either being a student or early in the career, there were fewer things holding me back. I guess there's a little bit more flexibility and fewer constraints. Yeah, I think what I could have done differently, I feel like I should have studied more in school. Like, I feel like a lot of times my marks were holding me back. So I don't know. I think that probably would have made some job applications a little bit easier. But yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to say, because I think even some of the things that didn't quite work out the way I planned, I think it still had a positive impact in terms of, the lessons that I was able to take away from it, or, like kind of pointing me in a different direction. So yeah, I think it's really hard to say. And I think even when, I guess one of the lessons learned also is, yeah, it's really hard to kind of plan out everything perfectly. I think there's a certain kind of adaptability that's needed, especially with the world changing so much so quickly all the time. So yeah, I think it definitely helps to plan and kind of have an idea and direction of where you want to go, but at the same time, paradoxically, you still have to be able to adjust and I guess go with the flow. I guess I think part of that also reminds me of I guess there's also maybe an element of perseverance and I guess kind of not giving up sometimes as well. So I mean, I think that's a lot of people ask me, like, when do you know when to keep pushing and when to count your losses and pivot and change direction? I think there's never a right or wrong answer. There, I think that really comes down to kind of everyone's individual decision making and kind of the factors everyone is weighing individually. But yeah, I think also with some of those things in terms of, yeah, when things don't go the way I wanted to, if I really wanted it, I would still keep trying. I guess one example I can think of, again, with some of the internships in undergrad, I applied for a job at Apple one term. I think I was in third year maybe, and yeah, I applied. I didn't get an interview, but I went to an info session anyways to kind of learn more about the role and potentially meet some of the hiring managers and recruiters who were there, and they gave their whole spiel about how great of a place Apple is to work and all that. And then I afterwards, after the session was over, I went up and talked to a few of the folks there, and just by pure luck, pure chance, I met somebody who was on the wireless technologies team, and she actually worked with the team that worked on like GPS sensors on iPhones and Apple devices, and there wasn't any posting or anything like that, but because I had some experience in GPS and GNSS and testing there, I kind of told her kind of my experience, and if there's anything anywhere I could contribute or help. Anyways, long story short, she connected me to somebody else, and we started talking, and in the end, it didn't work out. The role wasn't there, and there were some complications with visas and that kind of stuff, so it didn't work out. But a year later, I still thought, I just really wanted to work at Apple, and kind of reconnected with the same person again a year later, and kind of asked again, and fortunately circumstances, I guess, changed, and they had an opening, and they had a need and a project, and my skills and experience kind of fit what they were looking for, and they ended up giving me an interview and eventually a job offer. So I mean, yeah, I guess it was, even though it was like a no the first year, the second year it luckily turned into a yes, and I guess I'm glad it did, because that was the year where I met Dan, where he and I had an internship there together. So yeah, obviously Dan was smarter than me, because he got the offer his first try, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to know, like, you never know where things will lead.
Well, I was going to say the exact opposite, because I'm pretty sure I know who one of those people were that you were talking about earlier that was asking you these paradoxical questions, and pretty sure I know who that was.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, great points all around. I think definitely one thing I learned from you is that, I mean, I've always liked to try and find out what the right answer is to something, but I think definitely I've learned that from you in terms of from a business perspective of just test and validate, right? make sure you're experimenting all the time and trying to figure out new things. And at the end of the day, like you've taught me, is like nobody really knows the answers, right? You just got to try some stuff and see what happens, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's also, yeah, one of the things I learned. It just feels like, especially as like a kid or as a student, everyone more experienced knows more, and they do. And I think they're more equipped with past lessons and past experiences. But I mean, there's still a lot of cases where there isn't a right or wrong, and everyone's just trying to make their best decisions with the information and factors that everyone is considering. But in the end, I guess I still believe that like at whenever I make a decision, I make the best decision that I can. Like if I had more information at the time, I would have made a different decision, but I didn't. So yeah, I think I try not to also, I guess, beat myself up too much about making the wrong move, and yeah, just learning from it and keep moving forward.
Yeah, we did in our last session, Dan and I kind of talked a little casually about networking, and it's comforting to me that you're kind of reinforcing some of the points that we made in session. But I wanted to ask you something sort of related to networking when you're kind of growing and pitching a small business, and your business seems to have that interaction with kind of the creative side.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that the communication from the technical point that you're starting at to kind of pitch the function of your product to that creative side requires like a skill in communication. So I was wondering if you could talk about that and maybe how you kind of present yourself in those settings.
Yeah, I think for me in general, or I guess like any kind of conversation, I think it starts with I guess empathy and understanding who you're either pitching to or speaking with, getting to know them and getting to know what they care about and getting to know I guess what they're looking for. So I'll take it back to that example of that info session with Apple. I guess I always try to learn first. Actually, I guess I try to ask more questions before I pitch. Like I guess in that case, I was maybe asking about what kind of work do they do for like location testing and wireless testing, because I didn't see any kind of postings around there, but I assumed like such a complex system and device would have something like that. So yeah, and then based on kind of what I thought they were looking for, I kind of presented, I guess in that case, the skills or experience that kind of that what I felt fit what they were looking for, and like what was important to them, and all those kinds of things. I guess on the business side of things as well, it's if you look at our website and marketing assets and all that, it starts with understanding our customers, understanding the problems that they face, what are their pain points, and then from that, we that's where we design our specs and our products around those issues, and we try to solve them. And then when we've developed a solution, when we try to market it and sell it, again, it goes back to that kind of understanding the customer and presenting kind of our solution on their terms. Same thing with fundraising. What are their investors looking for? What are the returns? What type of investment thesis do they have? And so I think that applies pretty broadly. And yeah, I don't think it's I don't know. I don't think there's like a silver bullet answer to that, but I think it really starts with understanding and empathy to whoever you're talking to.
let's maybe do one more question here, and then I think we'll open up the floor, because I think there's a fair number of people that probably have some questions that that I'm probably not going to cover. So maybe the last one I'll ask here is just if you were to provide advice to somebody who's looking at trying to enter the job market right now. I mean, obviously we know how tough it is with COVID and all that. Do you have any advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out or is relatively junior that's trying to break into the market?
Yeah, it's hard. I think I think especially now, I think when we were going through school, or when I was going through school, at least it was the times and the climate was maybe a little bit easier. So I definitely feel for all the challenges for those who are seeking work at the moment. I think as a hiring manager, I mean our hiring process is fairly standard. I don't think we do anything too crazy. We normally post a job on our website and a few other places, and we also seek referrals and kind of within our network. I think from a hiring manager's perspective, the challenge is there's always a lot of applicants, and it's really hard to it's I guess it's hard on both sides. It's hard for employers because there's so many applicants and great people out there that it's hard to really pick one, and it's really hard to judge personality, judge aptitude over through a resume or through an email or even an interview. So I think it's hard on both ends. So I guess whatever an applicant can kind of do to make that easier makes it easier for hiring. And I guess a lot of times that's again like taking the effort to understand as a company or as a team what we're looking for, and highlighting how you would be a solution to some of the problems that we're facing, and I think also just having some way of standing out from a crowd of like literally hundreds of applicants, and everyone's short on time. So it's really hard to go through them. So any way of standing out definitely helps as well. And I think one fairly effective method is through referrals, and I think that's where I think going back to the networking part that you guys were talking about, I think that's where networking really helps in just having somebody vouch for a certain candidate really goes a long way. Really, lets us pay attention to this person, because it's just so easy to miss amongst hundreds of them. Unfortunately, I'm sure we've done that just by sheer volume. But yeah, so I think that always helps. And I don't know. I think it really comes down to kind of the effort that goes into it. I think that it does take more time to understand, what companies are looking for, or what unique problems they might have, and where the fit is. I think when we're hiring, we're always looking for that alignment. So somebody might be really smart, be a great person, but it just doesn't line up with kind of what we're looking for at the moment. So I think the more an applicant can show that, like, hey, I understand this is what you're looking for, and this is why, like, I would fit perfectly. Anything someone can do for a manager to understand and see that easier really goes a long way.
So maybe we'll open up the floor right now to audience questions. So feel free to turn it on. All right, Debbie, Taylor.
Hello.
All right.
Hi, Calvin. Thanks
Hey.
a lot again for this session. So I had a question for you. Because I'm someone who's interested in entrepreneurship, but one question I always ask myself is, how do I know when it's the right time, especially when I'm assessing, the risk between not going down a traditional path, like a full-time job, versus the reward of like the idea that I have, for example?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard decision, and I think it kind of depends on everyone's situation. I think different people have more or less freedom to kind of do that. I guess for me, I was in a position where I had a little bit of work experience, and I felt like I had somewhat of I guess like a backup plan. I guess I was very well aware that a lot of ventures fail. The majority, like 90% of them, do. So for me, I kind of approached it more of like I guess I was just weighing the pros and cons. I felt like it was worth it to at least try. Just knowing that even if it didn't work out, I would have learned a lot. I mentioned earlier, I felt like this was a great way for me to learn as much as I could in as short of amount of time as possible. And I guess I also believe that the more you can kind of learn earlier, the better. It's kind of like, I make the analogy to like investing money, like compound interest. Like the more you can put in, the earlier you can put it in, the more it adds up or compounds in the long term. So yeah, I guess that was kind of the benefits to it. And yeah, I think I gave myself like maybe just a few months to like, I kind of had an internal deadline of what I wanted to do, and kind of set like a internal milestone for myself. And yeah, I stumbled a lot along the way, but kind of hit that milestone, and then basically gave myself another 3 months, like 90 days to go for the next one. If I didn't, like I would have been fine. I would have been disappointed, and kind of fell back to that plan. But yeah, I guess it was always kind of like 3 months, like a very short window of opportunity for myself, but it ended up, kind of keep on extending. And yeah, I thought it was worth the risk, worth what I would learn, and I think the potential impact that could be made through technology. And yeah, I thought it would have been really, really big. So that's kind of my thinking behind it. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it really kind of depends on like what I guess how much time or how much of a window are you able to give yourself. And if you can't, if that then maybe it's not now, but maybe it's later. Maybe it's after you've worked somewhere, and you've thought about some things on the side, or you can do it as a side project. But yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of where I made the decision, and of course, it depends on everyone's own unique like financial situation and other personal constraints.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks, Calvin.
Yeah, no problem.
Debbie, I think you're gonna have to quit your job.
Yeah.
I think that's my short summary of what Calvin said. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
I think you can also like learn on the side as well. But I do think like when for me, I guess I'm kind of like an all or nothing person. So I also thought that like the time after school was kind of like a good way to, I don't know, like I didn't have like anything else to distract myself from. And I knew I would apply and work somewhere else and build up some experience that way as well. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my opinion on how to juggle like different things on the go.
All right, thanks, Debbie. Taylor?
Yeah, hi, Calvin. Thanks for taking the time. So I kind of got like two questions for you, but one of them is a bit more broad and one's kind of like super specific to what the Creative Console is capable of. So maybe we can circle back to that later if there's time.
Sure.
But the first question is just like, how did you come up with the idea for the Creative Console, and what made you want to make this sort of your company product?
Yeah, I think in undergrad, I had somehow I'd taken a few courses related to human-computer interaction, and I think one of the things I realized was that today's technology is so advanced, but there's always like a real-life human on the other side, and I think sometimes that bridge or that connection between the person and the machine, I think sometimes is a really big barrier and causes a lot of obstacles. So I guess I'd always been interested in finding better ways of like enabling that, because I think it doesn't matter how advanced a software algorithm is or how performant a machine is if no one can use it or access it. So yeah, I had been doing some, I guess like research and thinking around that, and I guess as part of my senior capstone project, started exploring different solutions there. And I think one of the things my group and I, when we were working on it, realized is that there's a lot of there's just a huge diversity of different users out there, but we're still primarily using a kind of one-size-fits-all keyboard and mouse, something that hasn't really changed since the typewriter. So we started asking, like, what if the interface that you're using can be, basically tailor-made for an individual's workflow or an individual's unique needs. And I think that's where we started exploring different concepts, and this idea of a customizable and personalized interface emerged, and started building these different like modular types of systems. And at the time we were really focusing on, I guess, the creative market, which we still are today. So yeah, that's kind of where the idea started. I think we pulled a lot of inspiration from the audio industry, and like some of these industries with solutions that have been around for decades. So I think that's kind of why it looks and feels the way that it does today. Like I was saying before, it was to Divi, is always just like kind of one step at a time. So we built a prototype. We weren't sure if anybody would find it useful, so we put it in front of some people and got their feedback, and some things really sucked, and then we changed it, and then got people to try it out even more, and then like, oh, this is really useful to me, or I wish you had this thing that I could use to change brush size. And then I think it was just like iteration after iteration after iteration, and I think that's reflected too in from our first prototypes to the first product that we started shipping in the market, which was the palette gear, to our second product that also incorporated years of the feedback and was yet another major iteration. So that's kind of where how that kind of emerged, and what our, I guess, design process is like. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely interesting, and like I'm interested in kind of all those aspects of what the console's capabilities are. So it's kind of cool to see to hear about where that came from. So yeah, I mean, I do have another question for you, but if there's anybody else who has a question, this one's like getting super into the weeds probably. So
let's just do it. Let's do it.
okay, so yeah, like I'm really into music and stuff, so like I'm working with some new types of like music production drum sample libraries and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I'm just kind of like wondering, in terms of like capability of the console, can you like actually do the drum programming in the console itself, or is it more just handling the dynamic control?
Yeah, our product, for anyone that's interested, anyways, it's our website is MonogramCC.com. But yeah, the product is our hardware supports MIDI. So I think, you know, with any kind of like it'll just work like kind of any MIDI control surface right out of the box. There's a few integrations that we're doing as well. It also supports like HID protocol, so you can put keyboard shortcuts and things to it as well, and actually both at the same time, which is I think a little bit unique. But yeah, most of the actual samples and sounds, how people use it with our product is through their DAW or through the software.
All right, so like for example, I have like a whole bunch of drum sample libraries that I would use something like Contact Player with.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something like that the console could control? So like when I go into
Yeah.
Contact, open up the sample library, I can control it through with the console?
Yeah, you could set it up to you could set up like MIDI CCs to them, and I think in Contact you can map different MIDI CCs to the different parameters.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was my second question. So thanks for that.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll take a question now. Hey guys, thanks for having me. Like, glad to see you guys again. It's been a while.
Who invited
yeah,
you?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, just to like kind of aid the whole idea for the innovation. I think there's a couple of key components there too, and it's not so much just having an idea, it's having the vision. You know, no innovation can have a good idea without a vision. Like, where do you want the company to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year?
Yeah.
What do you want to get out of it? You know, if you're looking to, you know, leave a career or a job to start something like this, you need to have an adequate vision. And, you know, along with all those, like, you ought to have your passion for what you're doing. For example, you know, Calvin stepped away, I believe, to, you know, pursue something that he was very passionate about too, right? So it's not just the whole going into something that you think is an idea. If you don't have a passion for it, I think sometimes that can get lost along the way. And truly, the success is in your passion and your ability to commit. And a lot of other times, it's seeing that passion through. So putting together like an adequate budget. And just putting it all in the line there too. So, you know, don't get caught in the weeds if a couple of things don't go your way, and using what I like to call is like an agile response system, right? You try a couple of things, it's not going to work the first time. And, you know, having that agility to kind of back it up and switch and change directions and pivot, as we like to say. And typically those companies and those innovations and those designs are very useful. So that's kind of what I would add to that for what Calvin said. But yeah, a question to you guys, I guess whoever wants to take it is you know, through all your experiences and your traveling and going to different countries and stuff like that, how would you say that affected you, you know, personally, in terms of, you know, leadership and building your future as Calvin would say, you know, Calvin, as an owner of a business, I mean, surely your experiences in traveling and trying new things has really brought leadership qualities out of you. Like, how would you say that affected your you know, composition and confidence, I guess, as a professional?
Yeah, thanks for your points, Mark. I think I really agree. Before I answer your question, I think I do want to say that's very true as well. I think I guess I don't I feel like I don't need to tell anyone that like it's a hard thing, and there's definitely going to be times where like it'll be super easy to give up. So I think if you're going to go through all of that hardship, you might as well do something that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, like Mark was saying, and that you think it'll be worth the struggle. So yeah, I definitely agree, and having, I guess, that belief, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't believe you, and some people that do and support you. So I think like also what Dan was saying, there's really nobody really knows kind of the answer. Nobody has a crystal ball. So a lot of it you're going to have to discover and uncover on your own. And if that's going to happen, you might as well do something that you're really passionate about. I think from the traveling question and how that shaped me, I think it certainly has. I would say it's not necessarily traveling specific. I think it's just the diversity of different experiences. I think traveling is great because it kind of does that, and you get that diversity through different cultures, through different ways of working and different values, different kinds of people that you encounter and that you meet and work with, and also just getting exposure to, what are some of the problems that they have. So some of the problems that we might have in a first world country like Canada might be different from somebody else in the world. So yeah, I think that exposure and that diversity is really important. And I think how that's shaped me is just given me, I guess, like a deeper well to draw from when making decisions. And I think it goes back to like that empathy part as well. If I think that everyone is just kind of like me, I'm not really gonna be able to connect or understand what somebody else might be going through. So yeah, I think that's where that exposure is really has made an impact in my life, for sure. I guess on a more practical sense, just working with different managers and being in different business environments, and learning about different business cultures, I think that has some practical applications as well. And I think that's shaped I guess my own management style. Working with different folks, there are some that I've really enjoyed, how they communicated, how they presented ideas, how they discussed things, how they dealt with conflict, and then there are some that I didn't enjoy or didn't like it very much. And I guess I try to pull from what I like to I guess shape my own management style and communication style. And I think it would have been a lot harder to do kind of without that breadth of experiences.
Mercedes has typed the question in there. Can you see the question, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I can see it. I'll just read it out so everyone has so everyone knows it as well. So our question is, if you have any advice for a first-year student of who to talk to and things to do that help with getting a co-op position in second year. Yeah, I think first year I think is always hard because there's not a lot of like practical work experience to draw from and to present. But I think that doesn't mean you're starting from zero. I think everyone's got some experience or some talents, or maybe something from high school, or perhaps personal projects or hobbies or extracurriculars that they have. And I think again, it's like looking at what a company is looking for, what are some of the problems that they might have, and how can you apply some of those experiences and skills that you have to help solve that. So I don't know. I mean, it could be you were involved at a some leadership opportunities in high school, and that could be something that's applicable, or maybe there's a hobby or something that where you overcame some challenges, or like really, I guess being in first year, you would have had some experiences already. So I think just like picking out kind of what those things might be, and trying to have the best match for some of the jobs that you're applying to. So some of the things I would do is like I would tailor my resume for each job I was applying to, and or cover letter as well. So let's say if a company was looking for, like one of the jobs I had was testing. I was testing like hood latches for cars. Not a very glamorous job, but I think for what I gleaned from the posting and job description and what they're looking for is somebody that could like learn quickly, learn some of these testing procedures, somebody that was reliable. So I tried to draw and highlight all of those things kind of in my application. And yeah, I guess it takes a lot of time to do that, to like research a position and then like put the time and thought into it, and then considering that, and then presenting it in that way. So I guess it just takes a lot of time, but I don't think there's a shortcut to it. So I think that's kind of what I did in first year. And yeah, I don't know, Dan or Josh, do you have any other ideas as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I think to tie it in there, because I think she's asking specifically be for second year. And I think it kind of ties well into your point that it does take time to do all these kinds of things. So the earlier you can start with it, the further ahead you're going to be, because I mean, I'm not sure if you were implying that you made a specific resume or for every position that you were applying to, but I mean, that would be the smartest or best odds that you're going to have of landing any position. But if you're going to do that for 50 applications, I mean, that's, like you said, it's going to take a while, right?
Yeah, I didn't do it for all 50.
Yeah,
and also,
perfect.
I guess I'm rereading your question now too as well, and like who to talk to. I think I don't know. I mean, ideally, if you can talk to the person who's hiring, that would be great. I think networking is also one of those things where, like, sometimes it's hard to do with an objective in mind, because you don't really know what connections might come out of it. So yeah, I think it's something that like takes time. It's not going to be like an overnight. You're not going to see like results or any kind of fruits from it right away. But yeah, I think it's like building that network, talking to people, letting people know that you're looking for this type of work. Asking around like who's hiring, whether maybe that's family members, friends of friends. Yeah, but and then I think the other thing with networking also is which I also always find myself guilty of is like also kind of maintaining those connections as well. I think sometimes that's hard and takes a lot of time too. So I guess the earlier you can start, the more you can kind of dedicate to it, the more it'll pay off later on down the road.
Yeah, and I just wanted to tie together two of the things that Calvin just mentioned in terms of putting that little bit of investment into each application. And also drawing from like early on in those early years, you're right that you're kind of painting this picture of yourself of someone who has these accomplishments that might just be personal projects, or they might just be hobbies or leadership opportunities that you've had. But if you haven't had those, like I think there's some pitfalls that people fall into in this process where they're like, well, I don't have that, and I'm constantly looking at my competition and seeing things I don't have, and that just means you have capacity. Like this is the perfect time to start doing things like that, and it doesn't really take a lot. Like Dan and I have talked about doing something 10 times, because even if you don't know how well you're doing or like what you're doing at all, and by the time you get to the 10th time, you're going to be so much better at it than you were the first time, that the context surrounding you really doesn't matter. But the added bonus to that is that when you are taking the time and putting that emotional investment into each application that you're doing, it's very draining, and it should be draining. It's kind of just like, I agree with Calvin, there's no shortcuts around it. Like, you're trying to stand out, and you're kind of getting hopeful, and you're kind of creating this attachment to a job that you're applying to and an idea of you in that role. But when you have those hobbies and those other commitments, you have kind of things that also have your attention and your priorities. So you're not kind of dependent on the feedback or the success. And that kind of allows you to continue churning out those applications and making them good and not getting too drained from the process. But maybe if I could just transition that into another question for Calvin, because just right when you closed on is something we talked about last time. And I wanted to ask you if you were doing anything extra during lockdown to kind of maintain your connections.
It's been hard. I think the hard, like, I think the challenge is, like, it does take more effort, because some of the things that you would just kind of get for free, kind of taken for granted with things in person. Yeah, I've been trying to set up calls with friends. There are some other folks kind of in the tech community that I try to stay in touch with, whether that's like a group chat or like a text message once in a while. I think the hard part too has been finding things that like also just aren't purely work, but I think there's still value in like, connections that way, whether that's friends or professional connections. So yeah, I think yeah, I've been trying to do more of that, I guess, online, reaching out to people, sending emails to a few folks, some updates, and I think also just for me too, just keeping up to speed with news and what other people have going on as well. So I guess it's all mostly online. And then, yeah, we're trying to do like a CEO kind of call with some of my friends every once in a while too.
Are there any other questions from the audience? I think we could probably take one more if anybody has one. Otherwise, we're going to have to ask Calvin a skill testing question, like who's his favorite co-host?
My favorite what is?
Clearly Mark.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
My favorite co-host.
Co-host. Yeah,
Thanks,
I think Mark's,
guys.
I was going to say, I think Mark's gunning to be a special guest here. All right. Okay. I guess we can wrap it up then. So, I mean, yeah, thanks a lot, Calvin, for your time. I mean, I know you're a busy guy and you got a lot of stuff going on with the company and everything else. So I just really appreciate you jumping on with us and fielding all the questions. And I mean, obviously, all the best for your company, and hopefully everything continues to work out well for you.
Yeah, thanks
Agreed.
a lot. I really appreciate it. I guess my one last piece of advice that I kind of want to mention is to be a good person. I think that like doesn't get said enough, but yeah, just be a good person.
We'll do a whole other episode on how to know if you're a good person or not, but
I don't know if that's knowable. Be as best of a person as you can be by your own definition. Okay,
Awesome.
good luck, everybody. Thanks for having me.